I would ask later on, when it comes under new business, if you wish to speak on the cell tower, that you come up to the podium, state your name, and whatever you want to say. That tonight's an informational meeting, it's not a debate. We're here to gather information, and with that said, we'll start the meeting. Do we need any executive session this evening?
Yes, Chief, I've got a couple things. One, a legal matter to discuss a tax sale matter. And second, there's a contract item I'd like to discuss having to do with a union contract.
Anyone else have anything? We need a motion to go into...
So moved.
We have a motion, second?
Second.
Motion, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we need to amend the agenda this evening?
We have one matter that can be tabled, and that's the discussion of the VSO possible concert. And that's been postponed to another discussion at another time.
Okay. So we need to amend the agenda to create that. I need a motion.
Moved.
We have a motion, a second? Second. Motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We need to adopt the agenda as amended. So move.
Second.
Second, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We need to act on the select board minutes of October 16th. Any omissions, corrections? Do we have any question on the orders this evening? Got a few of them here.
I got a couple. What is Eventbrite? It's on,
That's what we got our tickets
it's-
from, for the municipal day, right? That's where we
Yes.
ordered the
I
tickets
think they're
from.
the broker for those events, and they're the ones who took your fee to get you to that October 31st seminars.
oh, okay.
Both us.
Okay, all right. And the other one is Appalachia Salt. I thought a few months ago, we were all full up on salt. We bought more?
Yes, we did. We did. We're not full up on salt.
Okay. Are we full up now?
I don't know, but I can let you know. I'll talk with the highway.
Okay. I'm done.
Any other questions?
I had a question here, there, it says highway truck number 2, tires $1,588, must put a whole set on that probably.
These are, yes, retread caps for 8 tires, and we did get competitive pricing from 3
Yep.
vendors.
Good, yep, thanks.
town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, the Select Board met just a couple of hours ago in a special meeting to learn more from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns about the options available to the town regarding the future of the Lister's office in light of the resignations of all three listers in this past year, the appointment of a new lister, and the difficulty in finding candidates for those remaining spots with the skill set that seems to be demanded now by ever more complex position of listers. So stay tuned and we'll have more discussions on that. Markowski's has nearly completed its final project area cleanup on both West Creek Road and Whipple Hollow Road, and soon the town will send in its request for our V-Trans highway grant in the amount of $175,000. The town has received a permit from the fire marshal's office, and our contractor plans to begin work, I believe, late this week at the transfer station to put the roof on the old shed to extend it over the garbage compactor. The town offices will host this year's annual Veterans Day ceremony on Monday, November 11th at 11 o'clock a.m., again at the town offices. This year, music will be provided by Lothrop School kids, and the speaker will be David Trombley, who has done such a good job with the Memorial Day speech that he gave. All, of course, are welcome, and we encourage everybody to please come out to attend. It'll be a cold day, we're told, but there'll be hot coffee and cocoa inside right afterwards. Please dress warmly and come out to make note of this important day. There was a meeting of our Proctor Police Coverage Committee on Tuesday, October 22nd, with another follow-up meeting set for us at Thursday, November 21st. I'm pleased to report, Mr. Chairman, that the town has hired Tyler Allen as its new water and wastewater operator. Tyler's first day of work was Monday of this week. This hire is part of ongoing succession planning because we will have space to fill when Bruce Babcock retires this spring after 40-plus years of service. Finally, the town manager will be out of the office tomorrow and Friday at a town managers conference.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Any remarks from the select board? Do we have any public comment tonight? I'm sure we will later on. Old business, the adoption of the amendment to the town's burning ordinance.
Yes, we've discussed this on a few occasions, Mr. Chairman. Nothing is new. The fire warden has simply asked for relatively minor tweaks of the burning ordinance to allow him to authorize burn piles of larger than 25 square feet in his discretion if he feels the conditions are safe. And rather than setting ironclad times of day that burning must end, we've changed it from a specific time to dusk as the latest time that a fire can be burning under a permit. Those are the only two changes in mind, and if you're agreeable, that just begins the process. That is an amendment,
Right.
then, which would be advertised in the newspaper, giving people 45 days, I believe, to register that they'd like to have a town-wide vote on the matter. And we will publish the newspaper notice shortly.
Thank you,
So
John.
we do need a vote of the board to adopt the amendment.
Right. So do we have a motion to adopt? We
Second.
have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Discussion of the village sidewalk project design and engineering quotes.
I'd be more than happy to table that pending this
All right.
other discussion if you'd like, Mr.
Sure.
Chair.
All right, let's do that.
Till later in the meeting, that is.
We can do that.
Same with opioid
All
litigation.
right, we can do that. We'll table those two. New business. We have a request for coin drop for the Humane Society.
I think Beth Saradarian is here. She has come forward. You can speak if you'd like, Beth, or I can just summarize what you've had to say. Okay. Thank you for that.
No
I'll
speaking, no
flip through
getting
and try to find what it is you were proposing. Why don't you come forward and tell us what you have in mind? Kind of really bail me out.
Nothing like putting it on the spot.
Yeah.
That's because the puppies need it, right? Yeah, come right to the podium. That way they can hear you, and they can hear you on PEGTV.
Hi, I'm Beth Saradarian, Pittsford resident and Executive Director of the Rutland County Humane Society. And we would like to have a coin drop on Route 7 in front of Lothrop School in the spring. We're flexible on dates, but ideally on a Saturday from like 10 to 2.
Okay, anything else that you?
I mean, we don't get any federal or state funding or anything, so every little bit helps.
My understanding, you're having a hard time keeping up with the funds now.
Yeah, we do run a deficit every year.
Yeah, that's what I thought. What's the board's pleasure? I need a motion to...
Make a motion, we allow the coin drop to proceed.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just a quick question, do you have the form yet from V-Trans?
I do.
Once you have it, and once this vote has been taken, you can bring it back to me, I'll have the police chief sign off.
Yep. And then we
Perfect.
can see that you get some help to do it. Okay.
Thank you.
Any further comment? If not, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? You got your coin drop.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
That was easy. Well, let's see. This brings up, John, did you want to speak for a minute on
Yes,
this?
and I think I will be able to.
I think that's why everybody's here.
My next item, yes. So I just want to let people know that there does seem to be a bit of a change in the approach that has been originally decided upon by AT&T. I sent as many people as I could an email today with an update. I had your email addresses from the Planning Commission meeting. Hopefully, again, you'll give me your emails tonight on the sign-in sheet so I can follow up with any additional news. But today I wrote to everybody saying, hello, everybody. For your information, AT&T's representative, Janelle Smith, reports that in view of comments made at the Planning Commission meeting, AT&T is, quote, considering its options, unquote, including looking at the Sangamon Road Tower, perhaps increasing the height of that tower from 80 to 150 feet, and B, perhaps making use of the Proctor Tower as an alternative to the proposed Oxbow Road Tower. And that's based on input I have from Shane Rossett and his relative Cody, which I have forwarded with his permission to AT&T, that they might want to look at that site as well. She states that neither she nor AT&T plan to be here tonight, largely, again, because they're researching their options at the present time. But this is a good time to collect your comments, and we can certainly forward them on, as we have with the Planning Commission comments, to them for their consideration.
Did you want to speak, Butch?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about a little bit about what I found out.
Why don't you come on up?
Guys, you through what's going on.
Yep.
I have distributed your handout, Butch, tonight about the legal process of approval.
So hi, my name is Butch Shaw. I'm your state rep in Montpelier, representing Brandon, Pittsford, and Sudbury. I live over in Florence. For those of you that don't know me, for those of you that know me, I still live over in Florence. I've had several of you call me with concerns about the cell tower that's proposed for the Oxbow Road, and that spurred me on, and I do remember some legislation that was passed in 2014 regarding cell towers and towers for broadband and various communication towers throughout the state. And there were some special regulations passed in 2014 for that to actually ease the placement of towers throughout the state on a little faster and easier process to get these towers up. However, there were some, my personal view, there were some glitches in that particular law, which takes some of the process away from the citizens of the state. So here we are, we have what we have. So I did contact a gentleman named Clay Purvis up in Montpelier. He works for the Department of Public Service. He's the Director of Telecommunications and Connectivity. Clay's a great guy. I've worked with him before on other issues. It's his job to represent us if you decide to go before the Public Utility Commission. And so the Public Service Department's job is to represent the public, and that's just what they do. There's a process. When the law passed, there's a whole bunch of words in the law and the statutes. It's in, if anybody cares, it's in Title 30, entitled Public Service, and it's under 30 VSA Section 248A, and the pertinent information I want to talk about tonight is under parentheses P. I distributed this little packet to everyone on the select board through John this morning. Foolishly, I only made 10 copies, and I guess you guys kind of blew by the 10, but I'll leave them with the chair, and if you need more, hopefully, maybe we could talk the town into doing some more, John, and distributing them to your folks. Basically, what we have is a process guide of how this works through the process, and I don't know how familiar any of you are with this yet. Maybe you have and haven't researched it, but there's 3 entities that are involved. There's public, well, this guide will say Public Service Board because the law demanded that the Public Service Department put this guide out in 2014, and since 2014, the Public Service Board has been renamed the Public Utility Commission because of confusion between the Public Service Board and the Department of Public Service. So a year ago, maybe 2 now, it was renamed the Public Utility Commission. So there's the Public Service Board, or the Public Utility Commission, which actually will grant the permit, should the permit be grantable. The Department of Public Service will represent us, and the applicants will have a say. So that's kind of the 3 parties involved. The process, as already happened, or getting ready to happen, the company will submit an application. There's basically 3 types of projects that would come under this. One is a de minimis project, which means an existing tower, as John spoke about just a few minutes ago. They may be looking at towers that are currently in use. Those will fly through. It's de minimis means a small amount of work, and so that's one part of a permit. The next project size is a project of limited size and scope. Basically, anything under 140 feet, familiar number to everybody, and on down is a project of limited size and scope. It can't disturb 10,000 square feet of earth and some other minimal things that this thing can't do. And then there's the full 248A projects, which are big, tall towers, disturb a lot of land, and have aesthetic effects, negative aesthetic effects over a large amount of landscape. It seems to me this project fits in the size of the limited size and scope area. The 140 feet would be the trigger for me on that. There are several criteria that are involved in this. The basic criteria for a de minimis, a limited size and scope project is they have to address and take into consideration the applicant does floodways and aesthetics. Those are 2 issues that have to be looked at in a minimum size and scope project. The town plans can have effect on this. If the town plan addresses these types of installations, they must look at the town plan. They have to show, the applicant would have to show good cause for this project, and the town or municipalities would receive substantial deference in a hearing before the Public Utility Commission, which carries a certain amount of weight in law. A substantial deference does. Local zoning is not applicable. So there's no local zoning concerning cellular communications towers, that they've been exempted from any local zoning. I would suggest that you ask the town to participate in this proceeding, and they seem to be amenable to, as of tonight anyway, from what I've heard. They can represent you. There'll be a public hearing, and the public hearing, you will be represented by the Public Service Department. And if you have another public hearing on this, we can ask the Public Service Department to come, and they will come down and represent all of us, however you feel. They'll work something out. The town can file after the notice period. Have you received the official notice yet?
No, as far as I know.
You're not on the clock yet. Okay. So after if they put themselves on, AT&T puts themselves on the clock, the municipal body, the town, will have kind of a 45-day notice period, which they can respond to that and make comments and decide if the town owner wants to intervene. The members of the public have a similar opportunities before the Public Utility Commission. However, you do not have the backing of a substantial deference. But your opinion can be expressed, and it can be in either writing or in person before the Public Utility Commission, should the project get that far. This little proceeding that we're going through here is just a total synopsis of the entire statute. But you are welcome to file comments with the Public Utility Commission once they have, the applicant has filed the notice of intent to proceed. And there'll be pre-hearing conferences, just like the court. There'll be a discovery, and there'll be evidentiary hearings. The one thing, and then after the evidentiary hearings, then the board will, within 90 days, have to issue a decision. This little missive here does say if you are going to participate in this personally, and obviously the town, you should familiarize yourself with Act 248A and know what it says. And that's, again, it's in Title 30 of the state statutes. And if you are going to participate in this as an individual, they strongly encourage you to be represented by counsel. Because the Public Utility Commission is a quasi-public, our favorite word lately, quasi-public body, so they have quite a bit of power up there. So that's kind of just a rundown of what I've been able to research. On the front page of the guide that was sent to me by Clay is all of his contact information. He's asking you to call him. He's giving you his cell phone number, and all of his phone numbers, his email address,
Facts,
everything. So he's happy to talk to anybody about this issue at any time. So that's what I've been able to find out. Questions, comments?
How do we get his contact information?
We've got it right here.
Okay. It's part of the packet, and I say there's 10 here, and if we need more.
Read out the phone numbers and email address?
Sure. Sure.
Sandy? Clay Purvis is the Director of Telecommunications and Connectivity at the Department of Public Service. His mobile office phone is 802-371-9655, and his email address is clay.purvis, Purvis, @vermont.gov.
Is that spelled out Vermont or VT?
Vermont, spelled out.
Spelled out.
.gov.
And again, if you do want to read the statutes, they're available online. You can find them easily if you do, here another email address, but it's leg.state.vt.us. That'll bring you to the legislative page, and it'll say state laws. Click on that spot in the page, the top of the page. It'll take you right to the statutes, and then just click on Title 30, and it'll take you right to Act 248A. So you can kind of read through that. But if you want a copy of this, please help yourself. We'll make sure you get more. If we don't have enough, maybe
We'll have them available at the town office.
Is there any way you could put that on the website, at least the link?
Yeah, sure.
There's a link here in Clay's letter, how to get to everything.
So you said there's a 45-day discovery period after they file the
Right.
permit? So once they file the permit, that's when the clock starts?
And I'm not an expert, so it could be,
Yeah.
but there is a short time frame for this whole process to happen. It's really short. It doesn't drag on like some other processes that we have through the state.
Right.
Once they file, there's some surety at the end.
So that the holidays, it's going to go very...
Right. And some days are days, sometimes days are work days, and sometimes days are days.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many days this represents, whether it's just straight calendar days or work days.
How will we know when they file?
They'll file with the town. I think that's their first stop, is to file notice with the town, if they're going to do that.
Will the abutting property owners be notified?
No,
Oh.
no.
So,
Because it's filed with the town, I think the town has done if you become a party in the hearing, you would be notified, but on the first blush, you may or may not, I don't know, I don't know for sure.
It's another good reason to sign in your email address
Yeah.
on the sign-in sheet tonight, so we can reach out to you with news.
yeah, we'll try to keep everybody informed the best we can. That's the reason we wanted to bring this up. Anyone else have any other comments? Thank you, Butch.
Question, the pamphlet that they sent out, on the pamphlet they sent out to the adjoining landowners, they have on the last paragraph 5, says as a recipient of this notice, you and your organization will be notified when the petition is filed with PUC.
Try that again.
You want to read it?
It says, recipient of this notice, you or your organization will be notified when the petition is filed with PUC. That would be apparently for the butters. And during the 60-day period, you should have questions related to the project. They give you a contact for AT&T on this.
So the 60 days is when you get notified, or is that already started?
It sounds like this is the notice that you're receiving.
That's what
60
we were-
days is right now.
That's what
Well, the date
PUC implied.
PUC received this notice.
Yes,
The town
we're
will
already
receive the
looking at
first
now.
notice.
So they
Right.
received this on September
Is it
29th.
official yet? I don't know.
The town and adjoining landowners got this on like September.
As I understand it, it's a pre-filing, it's a pre-application notice.
Right.
So the clock, as Butch was talking about, doesn't start running till we get an official application.
I guess my concern is if you.
Ed Bove is back here from the Regional Planning Commission.
I think if you want to be a participant in the PUC, you need to file before the 60 days is
Oh.
up.
Okay,
Is that correct, Ed?
Yeah, the pre-notice has been sent out.
Okay.
So you're in that 60 days now.
okay.
Jeff, you gonna,
I might be able to clarify that a little bit, just from the letter itself that we received at the town. I'm Jeff Bizuzzi, I'm the zoning administrator. I don't have much to do here because as our legislator had clearly identified, zoning is overridden by Act 248A. But the letter that the town received, certified mail, was mailed September 30th, is dated September 30th, 2019. And from the representative's comments at the first meeting at the Planning Commission last month, the clock is 60 days starting from the date of the letter, which brings it right around Thanksgiving. So just so you folks know, you're welcome, and I probably would recommend or suggest that if you feel that you have questions or opinions on this, it certainly does not hurt to write to the Public Utility Commission in that 60-day, that's why they're asking you for your comments. And the other suggestion I would make is if you are going to write to them, you might want to put in your letter that you're asking for party status, because party status will ensure, is supposed to ensure, that they keep you updated with any changes in the application or the project thereafter. Now, in the comment period, they may not do anything with that, but of course, when it comes to notice of the hearing, you probably want to reiterate your interest in being a party status. So as individuals, butters especially, you can send in your comments to the Public Utility Commission, and perhaps the Select Board will take note that the same 60-day window, if you're going to bring any input, would have to be before Thanksgiving. That's my 2 cents worth. Oh, there is, on the Public Utility Commission, well, it's actually the Public Service Board website, there's a citizen's guide to the Vermont Public Service Board 248 process. It's a 4 or 5 page pamphlet.
That's
Okay, so you've got it there, right? So, thank you.
So I have a question for Shane. So that went to the abutters only, right? You know, and so you're not an abutter.
My grandfather.
Right.
was buying property, that's why I
So you can file for party status before the permit actually has been filed? Ed? The question is can an individual file for party, request party status prior to the actual hearing?
Yes. You can request that now. Prior in the advance notice period.
Prior to the actual notice being filed. There are certain statutory parties. One of them is the Select Board, the Regional Planning Commission, and direct abutters that own adjacent to the subject property. But you have to ask for it. If you don't ask for it, the board may not grant it, even though you're entitled to it.
And you have to request for intervener status.
That's pretty clear in this guide.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Walter family. It is 7 p.m. and the end of our family conferences. We do thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks.
Good night.
Yeah, that's cool.
Evidently.
Do we have any more comments? Anybody want to?
I got a question. I read somewhere they were going to put another balloon up a second time, is that?
I don't.
It's one of the things the town can
We can
request.
request, the town can request that they do another balloon test or whatever they call it. And I think we probably would if, because I don't think anybody saw that balloon test. I didn't see it, for one.
I would like for you to request that,
We actually
to let us know when they're going to do it.
Yep, we can do that. Yes.
We requested that at the other meeting, the planning commission meeting, a bunch of us did. And we also requested a bunch of answers for a bunch of questions from the state.
I think we did
We
send,
forwarded
we
the
forwarded
comments
those
from the planning
questions.
committee, from the
Right.
planning commission meeting to AT&T.
Right, we did.
They were digesting them. They hope to come up with answers if they decide to move forward with this site. As you know, they're looking at
Yeah.
other options now.
But we did forward all that stuff. Jeff?
So one other thought for the board, if I may. The representative of AT&T was going to bring back those information answers at this message, and of course now they've got some rethinking to do. Perhaps if the board does write to the Public Utility Commission, one of the things they could request is an extension of the 60-day period because there's been a delay in the information during the 60-day period.
Yeah, we can do that.
Who would write that for the town?
I think John would, for the town manager would.
And you'll do that?
Yeah. if
Oh,
the
sure he
board
will.
wishes to
Yes,
do that. Yeah.
definitely. Yep.
I have a question.
Yes. It's easier for, everybody can hear you.
Hi, I'm Dave Lacey. I live up on Hudson Terrace, so I'm sort of within the view shed, except there are a lot of trees in between me and the town. I just had questions about, for the utility, or AT&T, whether they had considered any range of alternatives. I see now that they're thinking of other towers, but, for example, could two 80-foot towers accomplish the same coverage rather than one 140-foot tower? So maybe that would minimize some of the aesthetic concerns. And that plus the idea of whether there's a maximum height you can build to without putting a light on top.
There is, I believe.
There's a light pollution aspect to it if we're going to see red flashing lights for the rest of our lives.
Thank you, Dave. Yes.
Does the proposal presented by AT&T explicitly state at any point how many people who receive service from them would be affected in the Pittsford and Chittenden area?
I don't know as it did. I don't believe so. They gave a map of the coverage area.
And does it include what it would expand to?
No. Not to my
We're probably
knowledge.
not the best people, frankly, though, to
Right,
give
to
you
answer those
technical
questions,
answers
yeah.
like that. Those would be best directed to AT&T.
Yeah, that's
We're really here to collect comments that we can pass on to both the Public Utility Commission and to AT&T. So,
Anybody else? Shane?
Are you able to articulate the information that you do know for those that didn't get the email with that information? You've indicated you sent.
I've got a few copies still left of what the AT&T and folks filed as their original proposal. and I'd be happy to give you a copy of that. There's some circulating in the crowd back there. That's all the town has seen,
That's all we've received, right, so far?
other than sending a few emails back and forth about whether they're coming tonight, and here's the meeting minutes from the planning commission meeting. That's pretty much all we've done.
Was there, so the planning commission meeting that you had, did they speak to property value?
That topic did come up.
Health risks?
That topic came up as well.
Okay.
I've read the minutes, that's at least reflected in the minutes.
Right.
And I do agree that if they're going to do another balloon test, it's better to do that now when there's no foliage, because I think those pictures were deceiving based on the way the picture was taken because of the
Jeff?
I'd just like to add that there
Leaves
are
were on, so-
versions of the information that was sent to the town and to the abutting property owners at the town. Hanging in the lobby at the bulletin board, there's an abbreviated version, which is a succinct collection of the description letter, and then just a selection of photos. The full package, which the town clerk does have, contains pages of technical data, which probably offers some insight to range and things, as long as you have an electrical or radio frequency engineering degree. And it offers more photographs. But, you know, the town has the full package available. I filtered it out a little bit because unless you have the technical background, it didn't make any sense to me.
Right, exactly. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm Keith Eddy, I live on Oxbow Road. At the planning commission meeting, they talked about the select board was going to take the input from that particular meeting and this meeting tonight to you folks. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, you were either going to let the PUC know that, no, we're not for this tower, or yes, we are for this tower, or we'll neutral on that. I don't know how all of us are going to be able to fight AT&T. I'm hoping that you guys make your decision on which way you want to go, and that we can do our fight through and with you. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. That's what I drew out of that planning commission meeting a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes. Come on up.
So we're not going to answer him?
My name's Jan Soterakis. I live in East Pittsford, so I'm actually a Pittsford resident, but I actually work for the town of Chittenden. So in thinking about how this is going to impact Pittsford, if there's any area here where you're not interested in having this tower, we'll take it in Chittenden. This is the AT&T map that we have for Chittenden. We have no cell service at our town office. We have no cell service at our school. And I'm working really hard on trying to develop a system for a warning system for the Chittenden Reservoir based on cells. And if you don't have cell coverage, you can't very well send out alerts to people to warn them you got 4 minutes to get out a 20-foot tidal wave on its way down the valley. So if AT&T is interested in looking at alternative sites, our select board chair is here, and he said he's interested, and we certainly would like to follow up on it. I don't know how your general cell service is here in Pittsford. I got a lot of buyers that I haven't seen on my phone ever. So I'm just going to say I would be interested in pursuing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Yes.
I just want to comment on that at the planning commission meeting, one of the things that was brought up is to put the tower higher so that it would affect both Chittenden and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that was suggested.
Yeah.
At the planning meeting. To move the tower higher up, so Chittenden was also included.
Which tower? The proposed one?
The proposed tower?
Yeah, the proposed Oxford Tower.
Make it higher?
Or move to higher ground.
That was my question too.
Move it to higher ground.
Yeah, higher ground.
I asked a question about why they haven't explored other towns that do not have cell power or cell service. Like, could you ask them to check into Chittenden? areas.
Oh, they know me, trust me.
So far,
First name basis with Corey Chase and Clay Curtis.
so far, I have asked AT&T to consider, first of all the comments from the Planning Commission, but also specifically the Proctor Tower that Shane Russett has done the analysis about. And I think they were also looking again at the Sangamon Tower that they mentioned earlier.
Because the tower in Proctor, I think, Shane pointed out, gives a lot better coverage even into Chittenden, which gives a huge area compared to what they're talking about.
So I can come up and explain.
You can, come on up.
So the name's Shane Reset. I live on Parker Road. I'm going to be up above the tower, looking down onto it. So obviously that was my main concern when I heard about a tower going up, was the aesthetic value of Pittsford. And kind of my first concern was like, really, they want to put it down in the hole and kind of not up higher where you're not going to be staring at it? So I went to the Planning Commission meeting, and the representative from AT&T really didn't know the area that well, and a lot of the Pittsford residents made it very clear that this is a residential neighborhood, and where they're putting it really wasn't the best sense for trying to get all of the community anyways. And in our zoning laws, it asks that if someone puts up a cell tower, to prove that no existing tower in the town or surrounding areas, I think within 30 miles, wasn't sufficient enough to do what they wanted to do. And they had not looked at any other sites. When we asked for a list for A, B, and C sites, they weren't able to articulate any other sites other than just this one, based on a radio engineer that worked for the company because someone in Montpelier said, hey, Pittsford would be a good spot. So, and that's basically the answer that we received. So luckily enough, I have a cousin that is a radio engineer. He went to school for this, he's worked at local utilities, he's worked for GE, and now he works for another company out in Minnesota. And this is what he does. He does cell towers, he does them for oil fields, he does them for trucks. And I was explaining to him what was going on. He grew up in Brandon. He's familiar with Pittsford and Chittenden. He has a deer camp in Chittenden as well. He goes, well, that's kind of a weird spot. He goes, send me the plans for it. And he goes, I can go on and search local existing towers and see if there's something that's close by. Because we had mentioned the one by Gagne's. So what he did for me is he printed out a report and he looked at all the land use, existing towers. So he looked at Brandon, he looked at Lineman Tower, and he looked at the proposed tower in Pittsford on Oxbow Road. And he laid it out, and I have the report, and I've given it to some of the select board members, and I have more. And when you look at the existing tower that's already by Gagne's lumber mill, opposed to the one that's on Oxbow Road, the coverage is vastly better, because it's up higher. You can kind of filter out the valley and go north, and then you can almost get higher and get over Sangamon on the south end and pick up some coverage there, and kind of up by like German Hill area. So I got this information. I met with a couple of the members at the town office, and I wanted them to be able to have this information before tonight's meeting. Today, John emailed me and said that he was curious if he could send it along to AT&T and pass it along. After that, and after the last meeting, it kind of looks like maybe they're looking at other locations and they're hearing us. But my concern is that they could be telling us that and then not actually doing anything. So we have 60 days to file it to be part of the board or to the PUC if you're adjoining, landowner, select board, or the Rutland Planning Commission. If you're not, then you have to file first, I believe. If you're a community member, maybe Ed Bove can speak to this. If you're just a community member and you want to be part of the trial, do you have to file first to get status first? You have to request to be an intervener. Okay. So you could be denied that. Yes. So really your voice is through the select board or the Rutland Planning Commission if you're not an adjoining landowner. Yeah, and there's a couple other entities like the ABC Bag and some of the other bigger ones.
Okay. So, on somewhere around Thanksgiving is when they could file for this permit if they don't change any of their plans. They've got 20 days to figure out if they want to change it or keep with what's going. So I think it's important for the town to not think about those emails that they sent today, looking at other sites, and request a balloon test for possibly 2 days, so that way people can see it going to work and maybe coming back because it gets dark early now.
Yep.
And get everybody to get a look at it with a public notice so that we can file maybe right after our next select board meeting. Hopefully they'll be here. If not, that's pretty bad that they only came to one meeting. So the town people can have time to see it and then come back and hopefully get to you before the next select board meeting. And that's kind of my concern is there's other locations, they've said it so far, but what if they don't do anything with that information and they just
Push this through.
let that go through? Because if nobody files anything and it gets to the PUC, it's going to be too late. Unless the town can intervene in that 45 days, maybe, but nobody else is going to be able to try to be a party to that. So I would ask that you guys do the balloon test as soon as possible, maybe within the next 2 weeks before the 20th for the meeting. I think that's the next select board meeting.
Yes. It is, yep.
And I think that AT&T is supposed to be at the Rutland Planning Commission. Is there a meeting this month?
Scheduled to be in front of us.
So you guys aren't going to see it all again.
We'll take a look at it next Tuesday night, 2 Tuesdays. We can look at it again.
And that's just the plans that they've submitted?
Right, they haven't submitted anything new since the 60-day notice we've all seen, so.
Okay. Is that a public meeting?
We would like to take the lead from the town in this case, so whatever the select board, which direction they want to go in, then the regional planning commission will probably go in that direction as well, so.
Okay. I have copies for the reports if anybody wants to see it, for any of the adjoining landowners, if you would like to put it as part of your evidence, the case. There's some technical information, and anybody that would like Cody's contact information, and they have questions about this, I can get you his email and his personal cell phone.
She'll love that.
Yeah. It's a pleasure here. I think we want to,
Okay, if you're gonna discuss this, I will recuse myself because of being mentioned, the tower that's on my silo, so.
yeah.
I think you have to leave altogether, do you?
Well, I will, that way.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Based on the information that we have at this point, the only
think-
information we have is Shane's, and his certainly shows it'd be better off if they used the Proctor tower, so I would move the board to have them reconsider the tower on Oxbow and use the one in Proctor as their primary tower.
Yeah, if you look at this report, I don't know if I can see, if you can see the green on that one, then the green on this one.
That's the
Huge
coverage.
difference, huge difference.
The second one is the.
This is Proctor.
The first one was.
The first one is the one they're proposing. So I, for one, I know this board is not in favor of this one. I'd much rather see something like this, where you're gonna get some actual coverage. Being in the emergency services, that's what part of this is about also. It's about radio communications for first responders. So,
So
I've been in that business for 50 years, and
I move that this board goes to the Proctor site rather than the Oxbow site.
Do I have a second? If not, I'll second it.
Second.
We have the motion is that we propose that they go to the Proctor site and abandon this site.
And that's the position you want to
That's
take?
the position this board is taking.
At the hearing that might come?
At the hearing that might
Yes.
come, that this board is not in favor of this site. Is that clear?
Yep.
Do we have to go further, though, and actually make sure we have party status?
And,
and
we were
request-
going to request party status also, definitely, definitely. Oh, yes. That's part of the motion. So, any further discussion? If not, call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Ayes have it. One abstention. Yes.
Could I have a moment of the group's time? I just wanted to...
You may.
Thank you. Again, I'm Keith Eddy, I live up on Oxbow Road. I've put my thoughts down on a piece of paper, and I've shared it with some of you. I haven't shared it with everybody. I will share it with the board, and I want to give a copy of it to the Planning Commission, okay? Excuse me for reading. To the ladies and gentlemen of the Select Board, I'm contacting you in hopes you can help me and a number of my neighbors. AT&T is proposing to erect a 140-foot cell tower on Oxbow Road in Pittsford. The goal of this project is to enhance cell service to our local first responders and others who help keep us safe. The improved cell coverage will also improve everyday cell service to AT&T customers. As a member of this community, I am all for making life better and safer for everybody who lives here. My objection to this particular project has to do with the location of this tower. With solar arrays and cell towers cropping up at a rapid pace, I feel we need to be cognizant of the effects these projects have on the members of the community. To simply erect a tower on a location where the company feels it is best for them and their needs is irresponsible. Consideration should be given to the people that a project of this nature will affect. Just maybe there is another location for this tower that will provide the desired improvements. I look forward to hearing from the thoughts on this matter at your meeting scheduled for Wednesday tonight. I also hope that you will relay my thoughts to the Public Utility Commission when possible. I am not speaking out against improving cell service to our community. I support any efforts to protect those that help us and protect us. I simply think that there just might be a better place to locate this tower and achieve the intended results. So here's my letter to the board, and I'm going to give one to Mr. Bove to the Planning Commission.
You can pass that down, John, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Anyone else?
Michael Sullivan, I live on Oxbow Road, ground zero, so to speak, right there. Verizon also provides FirstNet coverage.
Right.
So, I've also read that anybody who lives near a cell phone tower, their property values are diminished by 20%, and in terms of your tax base, that should be a consideration. Also, another survey states that 79% of people polled said they would not buy a house near a cell phone tower.
Oh, don't say that.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we're going to move on. I thank you. Yes.
Say something. I'm in the butter, Marty Murkowski.
Hi, Marty.
Our house is probably going to be 1,000 feet from this proposed site. That's right on the property line to the north edge of my property. And I have no problem with Kit Hudson trying to, better his life with this proposed site, and I think it's good for him. But, I mean, I happen to love Kit Hudson. He's a great guy. He's been a great neighbor, and I don't think there's anything personal about trying to eliminate this project. But when I see people that are so concerned about looking at the base of this tower that's probably 300 feet from their home, if you take measurements and see the impact of a generator that's probably going to be a standby unit, a very short road, and certainly a cheap site to develop. Being so close to a regular road, there's going to be a minimum little path to it, which will be quite an excitable road. And I think the development of this thing is going to really hurt a lot of people, including the property value of my home. And like I said, our house has just gone on the market, and it upsets me that, this stuff is just kind of getting snuck in. I think they've sidestepped us by not showing up tonight. I don't know what their plan is, but I think if the time is running short, the show of support by the select board is certainly appreciated. And I thank you.
I think you do have the support of the board, and we just made that known by the motion we just made. So that being...
Lynn Markowski. I understand that the Janelle, is it Janelle?
Yes.
Has forfeited coming to this because they're supposedly looking at other options. And I understand that, but last week or at the last meeting that we attended, she said she would have answers for us. So whether they're looking at another site or other sites, she should have been here tonight to answer the questions that were asked of her.
We requested that she would be here, but
Well, it's not right that she didn't come.
we can't force somebody to come.
Well,
Unfortunately.
that's my thing.
So, okay.
And you know what, so where are the answers?
Okay, anybody else? So I'm gonna, Joe.
I'm Joe Gagne, for any of those that you don't know me, but like was mentioned earlier, probably a half, 3/4 of a mile to the south of me is the Proctor Tower. From where I live, I can't see it, but I could probably look over to Kit Hudson's and see his area. That's not gonna bother me. But to put them two towers, or new tower, as close to the Proctor Tower, it doesn't make much sense to me. I've been approached for a dam alert siren to put a tower, or put a siren on the west side of the old East Pittsford Pond, that whole side hill, about 400 acres, belongs to us, my son and I. It's a woodlot. Down to Chittenden, they're trying to get a siren or an alert system. They're talking about it to alert them if something happens to the dam. They've approached us about possibly putting it up there. That same hill is not very far from where this tower that they're talking about, if you fly up over the hill, but it brings you up several hundred feet higher. And from that hill of ours, don't get the idea I'm trying to get this tower to come to me, because that's not my point. But from that hill that we own, I think it would serve a hell of a lot of Chittenden. Plus the valley on this side.
Sure would.
I don't know how much testing they've done or anything, but apparently they haven't done a very good job. I think they should look around. There's probably other sites that are even better than where I'm talking about. But to put a new tower in Pittsford where they're talking, the short distance from one tower to new tower proposed to the Proctor Tower probably isn't 2 miles airborne. I think they're missing the boat, and I think the town or anybody that's interested should tell them to look further. I'll talk with them if they want to come talk with me, but I mean, I'm not looking for a tower on my land, don't get me wrong. We want
Is it a neighborhood, Joe? Or
What?
Is it just your property, or is there a neighborhood there?
it's a pretty rural area. There's about 400 acres there of woodland. And they could put it anywhere in the middle of the damn thing. I think that'd give them a little more distance. Some of these people are within a stone's throw of the tower, the way they're talking here.
I think they should make you an offer, sir.
I think they should too.
Thanks for listening to me.
Okay. All right, one more question, we're gonna move on. Anybody else?
I was just gonna ask Joe, if the dam broke, would that tower get wiped away?
No, it's high enough, bro, it's high enough.
They might have to have a helicopter to get up there, but that's not my problem.
I think it's time to move on, isn't it?
One more.
One more? Yes.
My question is, how far would it be from the road to the site where they might put the tower on your land?
Well, depending on where they put the tower, there's a loop in behind East Pittsford Pond where the camps are there, where we come up within a couple hundred feet of that road. But to put the tower back up on the hill, you gotta go further back up, so, yeah, it's kind of rough terrain, it's not easy, but it sure would give them a lot better reception, it seems to me.
Not be as big a tower either. Yes. And then
Mr.
there's,
Chairman, will those two images be made available to us that show the difference in coverage if we move forward with the Oxbow site versus the Proctor Tower?
yes, yes.
Mr. Russett's got
We have,
copies, and I can
Yes,
easily...
copies, and I have a copy here.
I have your
Oh, yeah.
email address, I'd be happy to
Get your
scan them
copy.
and send them.
They'll be available at the town office, yep. Okay, all right, we're gonna move on to other business. Presentation,
You want to give everybody an opportunity to discreetly leave our meeting?
oh,
if they
yeah,
don't want
you're
us?
welcome to leave if you want, we're just, I know that's why you're here on that topic, but now it goes to the boring stuff.
You three are staying.
You're
You're here for the entire meeting.
I was just in hopes to introduce myself.
Hi, Tom Buckers. Hi, Keith.
Hank, I know you, how are you?
Keith, good to see you again.
Alicia Malay.
Where's your sign-in sheet? Sign-in sheet, going around. That went fairly well.
How come nobody cares about all this other cool stuff going on?
What's his statement?
Yeah, that did a lot, yeah. He said,
They found out that we weren't soldiers.
no, we're not old.
Most people think they are.
I got bounced back. Yes. First Hirschman, wrong name, but I will add you to make.
If Chittenden needs service, if you would think they would take that into consideration in their planning.
That's behind me, the upper level of mine would shoot right over.
God, you're out high enough.
You know, it would get right, I mean, so there's plenty of places in the town that you can put it.
Anywhere but where they're talking.
Well, and if it's supposed to be for first responders, have they actually spoke to?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Like,
You're thinking again, girl. You're not supposed to think. What's the matter with you?
Oh, I know. And where they want it, where they're talking about putting it, it's a pretty easy site, that's for sure.
Oh, it's an easy site to build it, but you got houses right there.
And the way a crow would fly, it ain't a couple miles, and the heights would be, I think Proctor's even higher than that would be. Elevation, not much, but
Yeah,
not far off, far as height.
oh, no.
And they're not,
But I mean, you get up on, I look in the road.
Look, we are going to try to conduct a meeting, so if you folks can kind of either go on one end and be a little bit quieter so we can hear.
Get him a.
Thank you very much.
just thinking that.
John, we will go back into old business. Something I said? Did I offend somebody? Oh, wow.
Somebody didn't take a shower.
I don't know.
all our crowd, eh?
We did.
We usually do.
Discussion of the village sidewalk project, design engineer quotes, John. You got
Yes,
something on that?
Chief, we have been told by V-Trans that we need a, at least primitive design for the sidewalk.
Right.
The kind of design that they want is beyond me and my highway foreman. So I did talk to a couple of engineering firms about a very quick, very dirty,
Right.
very cheap approach to
What'd you come up
design.
with?
And I'm pleased to report that we have the lowest bid from Dufresne Group, which is, by the way, the same outfit that designed the Arch and Pleasant Street sidewalks
Yep.
and speaks V-Trans very well.
Okay.
They've made a proposal for $2,000 to do the work. I think it's a very good number, given their expertise and given that they know V-Trans language very well.
Good.
So I think that'll reassure Derek.
Yep.
Because they've dealt with V-Trans very many times on sidewalk projects. And I would propose that we go in that direction and get the design going so we can get the project moving forward.
Any other discussion other than what John just told you? If
Now,
not-
is that everything that V-Trans is gonna need?
I've taken what V-Trans has told us we need,
Right.
told it to them, and that's their
So
quote
it
on
should-
that
it
price.
should be
That
everything.
It should be everything.
I just don't want us to suddenly need more salt.
Right.
No. I don't know what your salt finish is, but we'll have to-
All right, so what's the board's pleasure?
Oh,
Need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion, a second, so we can discuss it. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Now we can discuss it.
It seems to me, this is the state's problem, not the town of Pittsford's.
But we know it's
For
not.
them to tell us we've got to go get an engineer to come and design this thing, when it's only a very temporary project, in a few years, it's all going to be thrown in the dump.
We've discussed
I think
that.
the state's just rubbing sand in my eyes.
They are. We know
Okay,
that.
I've been waiting for this, okay? All right, Tuesday, July 30th, 2019, at 2:19 PM, John received an email from Brian Sanderson, who's the head of, what is it, AOT, DOT, whatever it is?
AOT.
AOT, okay? I quote, "As you are already aware, the construction and maintenance of sidewalks is the responsibility of the town. Unfortunately, I know when I got on this board, I assumed because it was part of Route 7, that it was part of Route 7.
It's not.
It evidently, Joe,
It's not.
it is not. So that's, unfortunately, that's the issue.
I believe in the past, the town's always paid for the paving on the sidewalks also.
I'm sure you're right, Dave, but when they come to rebuild that road, are you gonna guarantee me that they're not gonna rip out the town sidewalk and curbing?
Hell no.
I guarantee you rip it all out.
No, I'll guarantee you they'll rip it
I'll
all.
guarantee they'll probably rip it all out, and you know what? You and I both probably
Then who's in charge?
Well, then they are. Well, no,
we'll be
that's,
pushing up daisies by the time they do Route 7 through here.
Build it and we'll maintain the sidewalk.
Am I right, Butch? You think that'll happen 2028?
2028.
Huh? Is that gonna happen 2028? Give me an honest opinion. Hell no.
If I was a bet man, would I take the bet?
No, you wouldn't. There's your answer, Joe.
Right today, there isn't even a sign, no passing on the right down through there.
That's right.
I look for it.
There's not gonna be one. That's all he said.
I move the question.
Question's been moved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
4 positive, 1 no. John, go ahead and sign the contract.
Got it.
Continued opioid litigation strategy and discussion.
Yeah, I've got two things. Since our last meeting, as you know, the town, like many towns, have received this legal notice of an opportunity to be a member of a class action negotiation group regarding the opioid litigation, which has to do with the impact, the negative impact of opioids on municipal governments. And we had learned that Bennington has decided to opt out of that class action because, as I heard from Stu Hurd, the manager in Bennington, they felt that they wanted to pursue their own case with their own lawyers, casting a wider net, not just the manufacturers, but the sales reps and the doctors involved in all of that. We've recently received, as you see in tonight's packet at the end, a letter from Vermont's Attorney General T.J. Donovan advocating that towns simply stay in that class because they feel that that'll be a cost-effective approach, that will get the benefit of whatever is negotiated at a much larger scale without having to hire lawyers and be experts in litigation. So you have two bits of advice, one from Big Town Bennington, who has a severe problem.
They've got a huge problem down there.
And one from the Attorney General of the state to all the towns recommending that they stay put in this class that's already been
I
set up.
guess personally, I'd rely on the Attorney General's comments and.
I move we stay in.
Yeah, I think we should stay in.
Okay, we have a motion that we stay in. We have a second?
Second?
We do. Any further discussion?
I guess my own, and I'm not saying we shouldn't stay in, and I will probably vote for it, but I guess what I see is we probably aren't gonna get enough, so we'll even notice it,
Probably not.
you know?
Probably not.
And the only issue with getting into this is, let's just say, you know, we sign on to this and we start down that road, that limits our ability at any future time to have the possibility of actually collecting something on our own. If we were suddenly to have, you know, I don't know, 100 people move into town that just caused all kinds of problems because of this, there would be no way in the future for us to,
Well, the action that we'd be a part of now is against those certain defendants.
Right.
There's nothing to prevent us from going after other defendants in the future if there's a broader approach taken by some other class action against
And
people
our
like
attorney fees would be
pharmaceuticals,
quite a bit less of it, too.
doctors, which are exempt from this current class action, but which again could be the subject of another one.
So we'd be talking a lot of attorney fees if we went on our own.
oh, no, I'm not, I'm just saying it's something we need to
No, I hear you.
consider because
I
it's,
hear you.
you know, but, okay, so it doesn't preclude us from, because this one is just for the
Right.
pharmaceutical
Right.
Yeah.
manufacturers.
Yeah, the only
And
thing.
it doesn't, it does not stop us from going after, it stops us from going after them at any future point in time.
Yes, if
But it
there's a
does
sub-
not stop us from other people.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other comments?
This is just one pharmaceutical, not all of them.
don't want to, don't mean,
Like half of
Purdue.
those, like 6
That
or
was
8
just
ago.
Purdue.
I don't mean to pick on Butch, but have you got any comment on that, Butch, as to what?
My personal opinion is I'd stay in class action, Stu. If you know, won't, probably not gonna cost you much money.
Not to stay in it.
If the AG has advised that you stay in the suit, I think it's good advice because the state is in a larger group of states that are in a class action suit against the opioid manufacturers. And I think it, as a matter of fact, I think Minnesota or Wisconsin just won a huge case against the opioid folks.
Yep.
Some of them did that. The courts go out there look favorable on this. So
Good.
that's what I'm thinking. I would say.
Any other comments?
Thanks, Butch, I respect your position.
Hear any more comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously carried.
And that's to remain in the current
Remain in
class.
the, to remain in the class action.
Yep.
All right, moving on to new business again. Presentation of the first draft of the FY 2020 budget.
Obviously, since we anticipated a large crowd, which
Right.
did show up, we've done very little on the budget side other than just plug in for now what the department heads have requested. I've taken no editorial function, really. I've only filled some gaps that were left by department heads. I expect that by the 20th, we'll be able to present several of the department heads, for example, highway, rec, fire, maybe even the police, and perhaps at a subsequent meeting, we could have the clerk's office come and talk about.
And Dave and I want to get together with you sometime here soon.
I'm sorry?
I say Dave and I want to get together with you soon.
With regard
We
to,
talked about going over the budget with you.
oh, I thought you wanted to do special budget meetings for the whole board. That's what I heard David to say.
Oh, maybe. So-
Well, no,
I thought we were going to sit and plug in where we didn't have to have the whole board and then give it to the board, but it's up to you guys, however you want to do it.
I personally, I'd like to have make it open to the board.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if members decide they don't want it, that's fine.
Just
but
have to warn it, that's
I
all.
just I think it should be the whole board.
Why not? We'll have to warn it when we have the meeting, that's all.
Yeah, which isn't a big,
It's not a problem.
right,
let's,
I just think that's
Yeah.
that way, when we're at town meeting and we get asked a question, hopefully somebody can answer.
We'd like to sit with you, John, and go through it,
Oh, sure,
maybe.
sure.
Yeah.
Now, would you like to just have this first rollout
Just
session
a-
on the 20th
Yeah.
with this kind of get-together as a follow-up? Is that the idea?
That's fine with me,
I think that
then
would
we
be
can
helpful
trim it.
because
Well,
all
if
your
we need
questions
to.
will be answered
Yeah.
of department heads at the
Right.
first meeting.
Well, that's
No, and I
fine.
think that's, I mean, my vision of how this should work.
Right.
You know, granted, I'm a newbie here, but
New guy on-
is, Mike Warfel, Chad Ujo, whoever comes in, this is my budget.
Yep.
And we can say, okay, if we gotta cut 10% out of your budget, where can't we
Yeah,
cut
where
it?
can we not cut you?
Where can we not cut it? We get those, then we can work on it.
Yeah, in other words, you need to explain it, Lucy.
Well, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
In the past, Dave, for your benefit, what my practice has been is to have this first
Right.
wish list presentation.
Yep.
Then me getting some guidance from the board about what they think their appetite is for a bottom line kind of budget number. Whether you're talking about a zero increase budget or something even more aggressive. And I can try to accommodate that by proposing this, that, and the other for your consideration.
Personally, I think we are holding to a no increase this year.
I heard that from the last town meeting, and I gathered that was the follow-up.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm
I
happy
think,
to go for that.
and I'll be honest with you, that's gonna be tough on some of the departments, I think, to hold to a no increase. So everybody's gonna have to bite the bullet a little bit.
We may hold some a little lower than others.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how we have to come up with that bottom end number.
Right.
Right,
Some win, some lose, and what's best for the town, I guess.
okay, I hear you.
Go team. We're all a team, yeah. So, anything else on that? We did that one. What about discussion of the engineering scope?
Yeah, at the last meeting, Mr. Chairman, there was discussion about wanting to take advantage of the Bike Ped grant program.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I've had conversations, again, with this same Dufresne group, who, again, did our sidewalks on Pleasant and Arch Street, just to get an idea from her which way we should go in terms of having likelihood of success with this program. And she has suggested that rather than pick a sidewalk location and try to get a grant for design and engineering, it would be a good idea for her to, or not for her, but for the town to get a scoping study by a firm, which would then be the subject of that first grant application. She has quoted a likelihood of a budget of, in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $30,000 to look at all the areas in Pittsford that might be good sites for sidewalks, and to do the preliminary kind of feasibility study and scoping study that could then be the basis to seek further grants down the road if we want to pursue any of those sidewalk ideas, like Plains Road, like a continuation of Arch Street, like Toronzo or Pine Woods or other locations where it'd be good for sidewalks to be put in. That, of course, would be an 80% grant with the town putting up a 20% match. So the question is whether you want me to apply for that grant funding, knowing that we don't have to commit at this point. We can simply see if we get a grant. We can have further discussions after whether you want to take it.
So at this point, it doesn't cost us anything?
It would cost us, nothing to apply.
To apply.
And then the question is, if we get it, if we're lucky enough to get a scoping grant,
Right, then-
we want to pay 20% of, say, a $25,000 cost to do the work.
Well, yeah, if we don't have to commit to it right now, we might as well.
No, we don't have to commit. I don't see any
No.
downside to looking at that. Here's the way she phrased it. John, I got your message about scoping studies versus final design and construction. Here are my thoughts on it. If you do a scoping study, you can evaluate all the areas where you want to either replace a sidewalk or consider a new one. It doesn't have to be limited to a single road. It can be multiple roads with a goal of connectivity to each other, to key points, to the existing sidewalk network, etc., and pedestrian safety. When you do the scoping study, you will get an idea of the potential issues and design considerations. You will also get a cost estimate, which can be broken into phases or individual projects. All of this information will be really helpful in preparing for future grant applications for final design and construction. It would give your future applications a lot more support, as you have already looked into potential impacts and you have a decent cost estimate. If, however, you go to, you skip the scoping study and go right to final design and construction, you may not have as good of an understanding of potential impacts, which means any estimate you have is going to be less accurate. If you know exactly what you want to do and know the impacts, then this would likely be a faster route than doing a scoping study first. But if you don't know the information, or if you have multiple areas you want to look at, a scoping study can be valuable.
What are they doing that would be what we can't do, looking at, like, what are they doing specifically during this
I could
scoping
ask that
study?
and have that
Seems
ready
like
for the
such a
next
lot of
meeting.
money.
We have the meeting on the 20th. If you want, I can ask that question, knowing that we'd have to have the application pretty well written, because it's due 2 days later.
Oh, okay.
One question comes to my mind, and I do pay taxes in the village as well as the town, but this sidewalk project, does that normally fall on the village tax, or does it fall on the whole town
Which
tax?
sidewalk project? The one we're talking about now?
Well, this...
The scoping study?
Yeah.
That could be perhaps a mix of both,
Mix of
only
both.
because some of the sidewalks we have in mind are in the village, and some are not. So we could probably split that between the different,
Yeah, the town office would be in the town.
right, and
There was
Arch Street would be in the,
some
would
lines
might-
there.
Yeah.
Arch Street is no longer in the village, that's South End. Remember where that's whole,
Right,
that's the whole
right.
discussion
But
of the...
Plains Road,
Yep.
from the old Hendy property up to the town office is in the town.
Right.
Hendy's old house down is in the village.
Right,
yeah.
right. So I think most of it would be a town expense, probably very
Right.
little of it a village expense.
Right, right.
What kind of concerns me is the sewer is quite an expense for the, and that's primarily the village that's on the sewer.
Right.
And whether the sewer people or the village people are willing to feel good about taking on a big expenditure when it comes to sidewalk, would this be a...
Wouldn't have anything to do with sewer,
topic
though.
for town meeting?
Well, I understand that sewer is a concern for people who live in the village, but I don't think, we've just discussed the various roads we have in mind. I don't think any of them are jumping out at me as located within the village and therefore subject to the village tax.
Maybe not.
I think it's a general fund expense.
I
We don't know.
I don't
We haven't done the study yet.
That's
Well,
true.
no, and that's, in
All we have is our original ideas of what we think it might be.
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is, if we can get a grant, and then we
Then we do the study.
That's when we have this discussion, when we know if we gotta get a grant or not.
Yeah,
If we get a grant, it's a moot point. If we do get a grant, then we can determine what we wanna do.
right. But I think,
Well, we'll kick it to
to
that
answer Alicia's question, I think what you'll find is this scoping study, one, it will look at, where's this gonna take you, whatever, but the other is, if you got water lines, if you got sewer lines,
Right.
all that stuff, so you know because you don't wanna build a sidewalk right over a sewer line, it's gotta be changed in 10 years.
Right.
And I think that's
In order to
what
get
that
us an
does.
estimate of the cost of these various projects, they would have to take all that into account, so I'm sure
Right.
they'll look at that.
Yeah.
John,
It won't hurt me from asking Alicia to get an explanation of what they
Yeah.
mean by scoping study.
did we ever get Alan Hitchcock was a big advocate of mapping all the sewer lines and stuff, and did that all get put together pretty well?
Yeah, we have an asset management program in the water department, and we've also done asset mapping and, planning for the future in the sewer plant. We have not done an asset mapping project for the sewer collection system as yet. Those grants do come along, and we want to take advantage of one next time one comes available.
Because like Alan used to say, Bruce Babcock was the map.
Yes,
he was.
right. Right.
Yeah, and our map is getting
Is
ready to
getting ready to
retire
retire.
on us.
And that's why we've got the new employee to learn at his side for the next 6 or 7 months.
Right.
Anything else I've done there? Do we have anything else to come before the board?
No, I would like if you're prepared to make a vote on seeking
On
the grant, I just as soon have that,
Sure.
because that's one consideration. We
Right.
need to have that in the minutes.
I'll entertain
You can
a
wait, we can
motion.
wait till the 20th if you like.
No, we'll entertain a motion. We got a motion? Do we have a second to obtain the grant?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? You got it.
Very good.
Now,
Blood drive.
blood drive.
Blood drive.
We need to, yeah.
It's standard, it's tradition
I
here
think
in
we
town.
have, this tradition we have in
We'd
the
like to
past.
encourage people to give blood at the
Do
Rutland
we need
Drive.
a
and
motion,
give
or
them a
can
couple
that
hours
just be
to do it.
consensus of the board?
Consensus of the board.
Consensus of the board.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Thought we were gonna have one right now.
I know.
Thought they were gonna make us go.
So, we'll adjourn the meeting and go into executive session. We thank you.